From the studios of Farm Journal Broadcast, this is AgDay.
Coming up on AgDay, inspiring the next generation through some unique 4-H programs.
When I get older, I want to be an entrepreneur.
Farmer helping farmer as bitter cold temperatures move in. The story behind this viral video.
And it did kind of put a lump in my throat to see the support from the community.
And we continue to follow breaking news, a partial agreement to finally end the trade war between the U.S. and China. We have details.
AgDay, presented by the Chevy Silverado and the all-new Silverado HD, the strongest, most advanced family of Silverados ever.
Good morning, I'm Clinton Griffiths. It's the news many in farm country have been waiting to hear. A trade deal with China, and on Friday, markets soared on the news that a partial agreement had been reached. President Trump meeting Friday at the White House with China's top trade envoy, saying that the two sides have reached a Phase 1 agreement. Included in the deal, an agreement on intellectual property, currency, and foreign exchange issues, as well as a plan by China to make U.S. agricultural purchases in the range of $40 to $50 billion. Several important developments considering expectations were low that the negotiations would do much to resolve the 15-month trade war.
A tremendous deal for the farmers, a purchase of from $40 to $50 billion worth of agricultural products. To show you how big that is, that would be 2.5, 3 times what China had purchased at its highest point thus far.
The president said it could take up to 5 weeks to get the deal written. In the meantime, the U.S. is suspending a tariff hike on $250 billion in Chinese imports that was set to take effect tomorrow. We're continuing to follow this developing story and its impact. Look for full analysis coming up and online anytime at agweb.com. Happening later today, U.S. and European Union trade officials are scheduled to meet in Geneva, the two sides trying to hammer out an agreement ahead of an increase in tariffs scheduled to take effect against several EU goods on Friday. The tariff threat has people in the U.S. buying up Italian Parmesan cheese, one of the items selected to be hit with tariffs. The Italian agricultural lobby said sales of both Parmigiano Reggiano and Grana Padano have skyrocketed by a whopping 220% since the high tariffs were announced. Until now, 10,000 tons of this cheese had been exported to the U.S., representing the second most important export market after France. And many small Italian cheese farmers, like the ones you see here, are concerned the tariffs will damage the industry.
Small producer will be hit, will pay a disproportionate price unless they get into a stronger alliance of consortia. That's probably is the realistic and rational answer to give to this war of tariffs.
Now, one producer is hoping subsidies will help mitigate the losses. A little bit of good news for producers in Florida's citrus region. The National Agriculture Statistics Service saying the state is expected to produce an estimated 74 million boxes of oranges this season. That's a 3.4% increase over last season. It also says Florida is expected to produce 4.6 million boxes of grapefruit, and that's a 2% increase over last year. Industry experts say the estimates are good news for an industry that's been hit by the citrus greening disease and is still recovering from damage caused by Hurricane Irma back in 2017. Citrus growers and other farmers in California won't be able to use the pesticide chlorpyrifos after next year. Environmental officials say starting February 6th, sales will be banned in California and farmers will have until the end of the year to use up their supplies. Now, this is part of a new agreement between the manufacturer, Corteva Agriscience, and the state. The pesticide is used on a bunch of crops in the Golden State, including alfalfa, almonds, citrus, cotton, grapes, and walnuts. But further east, conditions are making things tough for farmers from Texas to Maryland. There are growing concerns for the cattle, cotton, and corn due to the worsening drought that was fueled this summer by record heat. One of the bullseyes marking the nation's driest areas is Bartow County, Georgia. Extreme drought conditions have kicked up buckets of dust and left cattle pastures bare.
Looking ahead, if we don't get enough rain and the pastures doesn't recover, we'll be dipping into winter feeding hay before time or have to liquidate some cattle.
Pasture and range conditions are in even worse shape in Virginia, where 71% of the land is in poor or very poor shape. Well, there is some good news. Long-range forecasts point toward above normal precipitation in the southeast later this month. There's nothing like going for a ride in the combine this time of year, as meteorologist Cindy Clausen shows us in today's Crop Comments.
That's right, Clinton, and that first ride is something that stays with you. Here's Nathan Schick of Morton, Illinois, taking his son Pete with him for the first time as they harvest corn. Lots of stuff to look at for that little guy there. As of last week, only 13% of the state's corn had been harvested. It's usually about half done by now. Because of the holiday, USDA's usual Monday crop progress report won't be out until Tuesday. We'll have a look at your national forecast coming up.
Farmers have been scrambling to get their crops harvested, especially in the plains, where a snowstorm and freezing temperatures spelled an end to the growing season. Now, one farmer in eastern Idaho got some helping hands, and the story is really taking off. National reporter Betsy Gibbon joins us from the newsroom. Betsy, several farmers helped in the effort.
Clinton, it's a video that's going viral. A bunch of farmers are helping a neighbor with harvesting his russet Burbank potatoes in Haymere, Idaho, in order to save his crop. A fleet of harvesters, windrowers, and trucks digging potatoes last week for a farmer who wouldn't be able to harvest them on his own and beat the conditions. Some farmers and crews work feverishly. One told me he stayed up 36 hours straight just to get the potatoes out of the ground. Jason Larson happened to follow the farmers down the road.
It was really heartwarming, and it did kind of put a lump in my throat to see the support from the community to help a fellow farmer in need. And I think this represents the agricultural industry as a whole.
Larson says the crew successfully helped to harvest the whole crop. He says, like the Midwest, Idaho farmers battled a wet spring, which made harvest late for potato growers. Clinton?
Now, this was the scene in San Andreas, California last week during the power outages. Pacific Gas and Electric cut power to millions in an effort to prevent wildfires amid dry and windy weather. This tiny mountain town feeds hundreds of hungry each week, and last week they still found a way to serve even in the dark. Now, PG&E says it appears the decision to cut power may have worked. Crews reportedly found multiple cases of damage caused by heavy winds, including falling branches that could have ignited had lines been live. PG&E says future wind events may require similar shutoffs. Coming up, we continue our discussion on the partial trade agreement between the U.S. and China and what's next in the process. And later, 4-H'ers take to the air in celebration of National 4-H Week.
Hey y'all, Justin Moore here. Get ready to kick up some dust with the Roxor Dirt Roads and a Country Show sweepstakes. Enter now for a chance to win a customized off-road Roxor and 2 VIP tickets to one of my upcoming concerts. Visit roxoroffroad.com/Justin Moore.
Markets rebounded on Friday on speculation. USDA was premature in raising its yield forecast for corn last week after cold, wet, and snowy weather increased crop risk. Now, some China trade deal optimism also adding to it. Here's a look at where we're starting out this week from the CME.
Today in the grain market, soybeans were at a 3-month high today. The trade deal is really expected, and we've got everybody wringing their hands hoping for the best. All eyes are really on the tariff resolution. The WASDE report yesterday has just been shrugged off, even though it was pretty bearish at the time. But I think that with a trade deal, we could offer some future possibilities. The corn had big rebounds today. That U.S.-China moves closer to an agreement really got things rolling. I think that that's probably the biggest winner of the day, up in the double digits that the corn rallied. And I think that they're really expecting that we're going to start to move some of this corn, and these numbers are just not going to make a difference. That looks well and really has bringing all the grains up. That being said, what happens when the trade deal does go down? Does that mean that we continue to rally, or we start to then look at what the numbers are for the yields? I think that's what's going to happen, and the market will settle down. I'm not sure that we're going to have that big pullback all of a sudden, but you can rest assured that there's going to be a lot of volatility ahead.
Pro Farmer Washington correspondent Jim Wiesmeyer joining us from the AgDay newsroom. And Jim, we just heard late breaking on Friday from the president. What's the takeaway from the announcement?
Well, if it goes as announced, this would be to quote President Trump, a very substantial phase one, part of a 2 to 3 phase deal. But agriculture is basically done in this phase one that now has to take over the next 3 to 5 weeks to be written into a final agreement. But why is it very good for agriculture? It includes $40 to $50 billion in agricultural purchases eventually on an annual basis.
Yeah, and so we think that's an annual basis. That's a big number.
That's what yes. In fact, Trump said they're concerned whether farmers can deliver on that eventually. So they may have to buy some more land. This is quoting Trump again, in farmland in Iowa, in Nebraska, and other great states. Now, later on in the press event, they said, what time frame is this $40 to $50 billion on? And that's when Steven Mnuchin, Treasury Secretary, said it's a scale up. And then Trump said no more than 2 years, or it won't take 2 years. Then it goes to that annual basis. That's how I understood that. For perspective, he said several times, right now they're purchasing $8 billion, I believe. And at the peak of their purchases from the U.S., it was $16 billion. So he said initially, many months ago, the agreement that fell apart, he said they were at $16 billion to $20 billion.
Right.
So in this area and other areas, Trump said this is a better agreement.
All right. So many things to learn. We'll be watching this over the next couple of weeks. Jim, always appreciate the insights. Thank you so much. We'll be back with more Ag Day right after the weather.
Join Andrew McCrae for Farming the Countryside, a farmer-focused podcast that is all about production agriculture. Farming the Countryside is available wherever you listen to your favorite podcast and is brought to you by Nutrien Ag Solutions, the world's largest provider of crop inputs and services.
Welcome back to Ag Day. Well, some parts of the nation's midsection saw a fair amount of moisture over the past week or so. Take a look here in right smack dab in the middle of the country. Southern Missouri, even central Missouri, down into northwestern Arkansas, even into Tennessee, on into parts of Ohio. A fair amount of rain. We're talking 3+ inches of rain, even 8+ inches is what our model is estimating in parts of northwestern Arkansas. So very, very heavy rainfall. Further north, we know that some of that was snow, especially in the Dakotas and on into Minnesota, where it was really, really coming down. All right, let's see what we have in store for us as we head through this week. Cold temperatures continue in the Great Lakes area and basically along the northern tier of states. We see that cutoff low starting then to pull away. Another little trough comes in on Wednesday. That's going to bring some stormy weather to parts of the Great Lakes and into the northeast. We warm it up a little bit in parts of the west, but we'll see another trough that starts to come through as we get into Thursday and then on into Friday as well as you get into the weekend, and we really see another trough developing for the western part of the country while we start to warm it up a little bit in the east. All right, so overall, as we head through the week, we're going to be looking at above normal precipitation in a good chunk of the southeastern United States and all along the Gulf Coast, especially the western Gulf Coast, a little bit into the Pacific Northwest as well. But the drier conditions are expected in some of the northern and central plains and heading down into the Four Corners region. Fairly normal into the Great Lakes. Temperature-wise, though, we're going to continue with the cool weather overall in much of the Corn Belt, the northern plains, and into the northwest, while we keep those warm temperatures, Four Corners region and along the Gulf Coast states in into the southeast. Looking a little further ahead, 30-day temperatures still cool in the north central United States and into the northwest. And as we look at the eastern part of the country, we'll keep those temperatures on the warm side along the eastern seaboard, all along the Gulf Coast states and into the southwest as well. Precipitation-wise, over the next 30 days, that's pretty important as well, as we're starting to get that harvest done, that very late harvest. And we're looking at above normal precipitation parts of the northeast, but unfortunately a lot of the Corn Belt as well. That stretches down into the southern plains and also into the Pacific Northwest. The only real dry signal that we're really seeing is into parts of the western United States, fairly normal in the southeast. That's a look at your national forecast. Now let's check on the weather where you live. Newman, California, lots of sunshine for you today with a high temperature of 80 degrees. Coon Rapids, Iowa, mostly sunny and warmer with a high of 60 degrees. And Collinwood, Tennessee, partly to mostly sunny, a bit warmer for you as well with a high of 72.
If you need horsepower, Machinery Pete is on the lookout.
I saw 4 incredible four-wheel drive tractors sold at auction last week, folks. Stick around, I'll tell you about it.
Closed captioning is brought to you by BASF. Grow smart with BASF. We create chemistry.
Combines may be the prized piece of equipment at harvest, but Machinery Pete has big four-wheel drive tractors on his mind this week. Here's Pete.
Boy, I tell you what, folks, I saw 4 immaculate four-wheel drive tractors sold at auction last week. So here's a picture from an auction in West Central New York last week. A 2012 John Deere 9410R. This thing had 957 hours on it, no def, and it sold for $200,000. Now, that is the highest auction price in just under 3 years. And for perspective, the current average auction price on a 9410R this year is $150,895. Now, on that same auction last Thursday in Western New York, the slightly older 2008 Deere 9330 was up for sale, just a beauty. 1,961 hours on it, and it went for $176,000. Exact same story here, folks. That's the highest auction price on a 9330 in just under 3 years. And again, for perspective, current average auction price is $108,807. Now, a week ago Friday, an immaculate farm auction in southern Ontario had this four-wheel drive. Look at this thing, Case IH 4994. Don't see many of those. And making this even more rare, it had a factory Cummins 855 engine. Supposedly only 10 of those made. Had just over 7,700 hours on it and sold in US dollars for $52,577, again, US dollars. Record price by a mile. Now, the same sale had this gorgeous Case 4890, 4,917 hours on it, went for $19,904 US, again, record price.
Coming up, we're celebrating what makes 4-H so great by checking out how some students are earning their wings. That's next in the country.
Hey y'all, Justin Moore here. Get ready to kick up some dust with the Roxor Dirt Roads and a Country Show sweepstakes. Enter now for a chance to win a customized off-road Roxor and 2 VIP tickets to one of my upcoming concerts. Visit roxoroffroad.com/Justin Moore.
While 4-H is widely known for its agricultural roots, the youth organization is making a concerted effort in science and engineering. This year, as part of National 4-H Week in Louisiana, Craig Gautreaux reports students are learning about drones.
Students at Impact Charter School in Baker, Louisiana were earning their wings as they flew their initial mission as drone pilots. The lesson was one of many across the country during National 4-H Week. Each year, one day is dedicated to an activity highlighting science, technology, engineering, or math. The 4-H program chooses the activity based on the needs of the school.
Our programs kind of vary on what the schools want. We have this school that wanted drones. We have another school that may want physics. We have another school that may want like life sciences or something like that.
Fran Harvey is a 4-H volunteer and is involved with Geographic Information Systems. She works with an area technology club and sees the value of getting young people engaged in learning about technology.
To teach students about GIS, which is Geographic Information Systems. So that's a technology that's high wage, high demand. We've created an industry-based certification for high school students to earn and achieve.
Some students were apprehensive at first, but they soon got the hang of operating the drones.
Just today we had 2 students in our first class. They said they never flew a drone before, but they were top-notch.
The students enjoyed the opportunity to fly the drones, even though conditions made it more difficult.
It was a little bit more complicated than I thought it would be because of the wind. So most of the time when it's like very, very, very windy, you might not want to fly it because it might crash or something and do something that you might not want it to do.
When I get older, I want to be an entrepreneur, so drones can help me. Drones could be helped to send the packages to people's houses and stuff like that.
Beside drones, other 4-H students built a roller coaster to highlight principles of physics. With the LSU Ag Center, this is Craig Gautreaux reporting.
And that's all the time we have this morning. We're sure glad you tuned in, spent part of your day with us. From all of us here at AgDay, I'm Clinton Griffiths. Have a great week out in Farm Country.
AgDay, brought to you by the Milk Business Conference. Don't miss this dairy business-focused event November 11th and 12th, 2019 in Las Vegas. Register today at milkbusinessconference.com.